Hey guys, how are you? So today I had a long boring day. It's not a boring day, it's an interesting day because I got to understand, I got to learn a lot of things. So today I am over here to teach you, not to teach you, explore with you about the dependency injection concept in Spring. So this is the continuation video of my last video. So before you move on to this video, you make sure that you have already watched my last video, right? In the last video, we have covered what is dependency injection, what are the different ways like setter injection and constructor injection we have for dependency injection to do dependency injection in Spring. And we have covered in a detailed way in the last video. So that is really important. And once you got to understand that video, this video will be nothing for you guys. But let me tell you that this video that I'm going to discuss today is the most important video of this series of tutorial. Yes, so I'm just trying to take a long session over here, but in the same time I'll make sure that I'm going step by step so that everybody who is watching this they are going to follow me, right? Because when we are fresher, it's very hard to got this frameworks kind of concept, but trust me guys, it is very easy. Okay, and we're going to do like we do all the time. Okay, so before that, first of all, let me share my screen. Okay, just a moment. Right. So we are all set right now, and we are all ready to learn dependency injection in Spring. And today we'll be talking about injecting the object type values, or injecting an object. Okay. In the last video, we have covered that how to inject primitive type values, how to inject string type values using a constructor injection or by using a setter injection, right? So today we'll be talking about how to inject object, okay, which is the most important feature. You can say that, right? This is the most important feature of Spring. So first of all, so I'm going to create so I do have a fresh project over here called dependency injection object type, because we're going to inject the object type value today. And I do have my src folder here. I just created a simple project here called com.seleniumexpress.di, and over here I'm going to create a simple class called student, because we all are student and we love to be student because we usually learn a lot of things being a student. Great. Okay, so right now I do have a class called student, right? So just think like right now I do have another class here. Okay, I do have another class here. Let's say I'm a bad student. Okay, so let's say this student is me and I'm really bad. Okay, I don't know concepts, I don't know anything, so I'm a bad student. So let's say I have another class is called cheat, because I do cheating, right? Not actually. So math cheat. Okay, so I do have a class called math cheat. Okay, there you go. I do have a class here called math cheat, and think like in this math cheat class I do have another method. Okay, so what is my method name? Let's say my method name is something public void math cheat. Okay, let's say tomorrow I do have my exam and I'm just writing my cheat over here. I'll do sys out and I'll say control space and I'll say math cheating started, right? Okay, so I do have a simple class called math cheat, and I do have a simple method called math cheat as well, and this math cheat method just printing math cheating started, right? So here let's say this is me, right? So tomorrow I do have my exam, so I need to carry my cheat with me. So how can I carry my cheat with me? How can I call this particular method? So this is my cheating method, right? So how can I call this particular method over here inside this student class, right? Great. So we can do one thing. I can do what? Math cheat, because I want to call the math cheat method of the math cheat class. So I'll do math cheat equal to new math cheat, right? And I can create a method public void let's say cheating method. Okay, so inside this cheating method what I can do, so inside the math cheat class we have this method, right? Math cheat method, right? So how can I call this particular method? To call this particular method, first of all I need to create the object of this particular class, right? So I have created the object of that particular class over here, and right now using the reference of this particular class called matchIt, I'll do matchIt. So this is my reference dot matchIt. MatchIt is my method, right? This is a method. I'll do control, and so I'll do command and open declaration. So this is my method, right? I want to call this particular method. So let me go back here. Great. So right now, this is the way I can call that particular method, right? So you know what? This is not a good coding approach. This is not a good way of doing coding. Why? The answer of that why I can give you, like, if you see this over here in the line number 5, this is not a very good coding approach because we are hard coding the thing over here. So in the line number 5, if you see over here, this is not a kind of good programming. The reason for that is we are doing tight coupling over here. So if you do use new keyword, it is kind of tight coupling, right? I already told you about tight coupling previously, but just think like over here, the using of new keyword is not that great. We should avoid using new keyword over here, right? So I'll do this, right? So right now, this matchIt does not have the object. I have removed that object, right? New object part I have removed. So right now, if I want to call matchIt.matchIt, right? So this matchIt is the method and this matchIt is the reference. But right now, this reference does not have any value, right? This is null. This is object type, right? So this matchIt is the type of matchIt. This matchIt is what? This matchIt is a class. If I command click over here, this is a class, right? So let me go back. Okay, so right now, by default, if I am not assigning any object over here, by default, this matchIt, this reference will be null, right? And over null, if I'll do any of the operation, I'll be getting null pointer exception, right? So right now, the object is not created. So we need to create the object for matchIt over here, but I don't want to create that object over here inside the student class because I hate tight coupling. I want to do loose coupling. I want to achieve loose coupling in the line number 5. So how can I do it, right? So before I go over there and before I talk more about that, first of all, I want to simply create a class called client class. So class, I want to create a client class here, right? Great, I do have a client class over here. And inside this client class, I want to create a main method, right? So main method. Okay, so here inside this main method, if I want to call this cheating method, okay? So how can I call this cheating method here inside the client class? So the cheating method belongs to which class? Student class, right? So first of all, I need to create the object of a student. So it's too hot here. Okay, so student, okay, student equal to new student, okay, and I'll do student dot cheating, okay. So now the cheating should be started, right? So can you guess what is going to be the output, okay? So this method I am calling, okay, so this method does what? This method is calling the matchIt method of matchIt reference. So matchIt is reference of this matchIt class, right? So here, is there an object already assigned to this particular reference? No. So by default, the value of this is what? Null, right? Because by default, the int value is what? 0. By default, the string value is what? Null. Why? Because string is an object, right? And similarly, this matchIt is what? This is of class. Which type? This is a class type. What is the class name? matchIt. So this is a class, means by default, the value will be null, right? So the default value of this is null. And over a null, if I'm performing any of the operation, I should be getting null pointer exception, right? So if I go to my client.java class, and if I run this particular application, what will happen? Let me save it, click OK, there you go. Null pointer exception, because I haven't have a value for this matchIt class, right? So now my task is inject, okay, inject the value for this particular reference matchIt. So how can I do it, right? So let not, I shouldn't do this explicitly. This is just to show you, because by default, the value of matchIt will be null, okay? So now my job is to inject the object for matchIt, okay? I should do that equal to new, sorry. Okay, I should do match it equal to new match it. But this part, I should not be doing it in this class. I should be doing it outside of my class. Okay, so from a different class, I should inject this particular object, match it here to this particular reference, right? Simple. You got it? So how can I do it? So if you have already understood the last concept, the last video concept, the setter injection and constructor injection, then you might be thinking, hey Vilash, I can do a setter injection over here, or I can do a constructor injection over here. So let's do a setter injection. So how can I do a setter injection? I just need to create a setter method, right? So let me here create a setter method by doing what? By doing source, generate getters and setters. I'll click this box. I'll only select setters and I'll do OK. So now I do have a setter method. So now this setter method will do what? This will accept a match it object, and that object I'm going to set to this dot match it. This dot match it is what? This one, right? This match it, right? Okay, so this is how we do setter injection, right? In the last video we understood. Okay, so now in the client.java class, what I can do? I can do this. First I create the student class. Okay, let's not remove that. Okay, student.cheating. So this cheating method I want to call. But before I call this cheating method, right, I should inject the value for this reference. Before I call this particular method, I should inject the value for this reference. Why? Because here inside this method I'm doing what? I am calling the matchit method of matchit class using the matchit reference, and this matchit belongs to this matchit class, and this matchit is null, right? So first of all, this null value, here I should give the object to this particular reference, so that whenever I will call this particular method, this has the object of matchit class, and over that object I can call the matchit method, so that my matchit method will be called. Which is your matchit class. Okay, simple. I'm so repetitive, right? Because I want to make you understand that particular point. Okay, so now let's come back. Okay, great. So what I can do right now, I can go to client.java, and before I call the cheating method, I'll do what? I'll call the setter method of student. So student dot set matchit. So inside the student class, the student reference belongs to this class, right? So inside the student class, I do have this setter method, and using this setter method, I'm going to inject the object to this matchit, right? So I'll do what? Student dot matchit, and I will inject the matchit object. So first of all, I need to create the matchit object. So I'll do what? The matchit class, matchit. This is the matchit. Let's say matchit chit equal to new matchit. First of all, I'll create the matchit object, and this chit object I'm going to pass it over here, right? Simple, right? Now I'll call student.cheating. If I call student.cheating right now, this should run. Match cheating started. Why? Because here I created the matchit object, right? Then I'll pass this cheat object, this matchit object, to set matchit method. Now this setter method will do what? This setter method belongs to the student class. So inside the student class, here it got the new matchit object, right? Here it got the thing like this. Okay. New matchit object. Okay. Now this is got assigned to this. Just making you understand. This is not good. Okay. Just trying to make you understand. Okay. So here it got this. Now this we are setting it to this dot matchit. That means this. Okay. So now it got the value. Now it has the object. Now over that object, we are calling the matchit method. Now it is calling because this matchit is actually having the object over here. So no null pointer exception will come, right? Simple, right? So bad coding. Let me remove it as soon as I can. Okay, so there you go. So, okay, so I think this is clear. So here we're using a setter to inject the object to this particular value, and this particular reference is a class type reference, right? It is this particular reference is actually asking for a object, because previously we used to do what? Int I, and we used to inject the value of I using a setter method. Like I value will be 10, right? Or 20. Similarly, the match it value will be the object of match it. Clear? Because this match it is a class and we need to inject the object for that particular class. Got it? Okay, I think you are. Okay, so let me remove this. And there you go. Simple, right? So I'll do Command A and I'll do Command Shift F. Cool. My code got resized. I'll do Control S and there you go. My application is running fine. My chatting gets started. Match chatting started. Simple, right? Alright, great. So right now, whatever I want to tell you, I told you that. Right now we're going to go super fast because you are going to catch the thing very, very fast. Okay, tell me how many objects here we're dealing with. Okay, in the client class, okay, how many objects we're creating here? 2 objects, right? Student class object and the match it object. Why we are creating the match it object? Because our student class needs a match it object. Our student class is dependent on a match it object, because in our student class, the student class method is dependent on the match it class. This student class method cheating is actually using a math class object to call the match it method, right? So the student class need or the student class is dependent on the match it class, right? So there is a dependency. The student class is depending on the match it class. I'm a student and I depend on cheating, right? See the dependency, right? I do have a dependency. I'm dependent on cheating, right? I'm dependent on match it, right? So there is a dependency, right? And that dependency, this match it dependency, we are doing it by setter injection, right? We're injecting it by setter injection from a different class called client. But wait, right? 2 objects we are creating, student object and match it object, and we're also setting the match it object in the setter method of student class, right? So the set match it method, inside the set match it method, we are also passing the match it object, right? So we are creating the student class object, we are creating the match it object, then we're using the set match it method and we are passing the match it object. So we are doing a whole lot of things by ourselves. But why to do it? Spring is here, man. If Spring is here, then we don't need to do anything, right? Why we should do it? We already learned about it, right? Dependency injection concept. We are lazy. We will not do work. As a developer, my job is only to do business logic, only to think about business, only to do business. I mean, implementing the business logic. I shouldn't be thinking about creating these objects and injecting this object by using a setter method, right? These things Spring is going to do. These 3 steps, the object creation and setting those objects to the respective dependency, these things Spring is going to do. We're not going to do it. We are just going to tell Spring that, hey, you need to create this student class object. Hey, you need to create this match it object. And hey, you need to set this match it object to this particular reference, right? We just need to tell this thing to Spring. That's it. Our job is done. Then Spring is going to take care of all these things. Now let's understand how we're going to do it. You understand this concept, what we are going to do, right? Okay, so these things, now I should comment it, right? I should comment this thing because I shouldn't be doing all these things by myself. These things Spring is going to do. I'm only going to call the method. Right now I have commented this, so I'm getting an error, right? So let me remove this. So these things Spring is going to do. Now let Spring do all these things, right? So we will tell Spring. So how to tell Spring? So to tell Spring, to inform Spring that, hey Spring, you need to do all these things. There are different ways. XML way, annotation way, Java based way, right? We are right now learning XML stuff because that's really important. Which company you will go, wherever you go, there is a 90% of probabilities that you are going to get XML kind of stuff, right? Because not all companies are using the latest stuff. But once you got to understand all these things, we are going to talk about the annotations and Java based, how to configure all these things using Java also, right? But first let's do it by using a XML file. So to get that XML file, I'm going to go to Spring IOC, one of my previous program, and previous project here, and I think we have already configured something in the last tutorial. We have created this dependency injection project. So I'm going to come to src. In my class path, I'm going to do Control B. So here I got my beans.xml file, and here inside this beans.xml file, I'm going to configure my bean. So first of all, this bean that I have already configured, let me remove it, and I'm going to do everything from scratch. Okay, so first of all, I will tell Spring which class object to create. Okay, this student class object we need to create, right? So first of all, let's forget about all these things, okay, and let's try to focus which class object we are creating first. See over here, which class object we are creating first? Student class object, right? So first of all, let's tell Spring that, hey Spring, you need to create a student class object. So how to tell Spring that, hey, you need to create that object? By using the bean tag, right? So bean, you remember, right, the meaning of bean? Bean is the object that Spring container manages, right? So all the beans are the object the Spring container manages. Okay, for this particular object, I need to give a ID, or this is gonna be my reference. Let's say this is the reference will be that student only, or let's say STU, just not to make you confused by repeating those words. ID equal to STU, and obviously here I need to define the fully qualified path of my class. So what is my class? Okay, so I don't need to type it. I need to go over here. I'll do a right click, copy qualified name. I'll get my class name, come over here, do Control V. Okay, now Spring will do what? Spring will create the student class object. Internally, Spring will create your student class object right now. Whenever Spring is going to read this particular, this particular XML file, or whenever your Spring IOC, your Spring container is going to read this XML file, it is going to found, okay, the developer want me to create the student class object and give it a reference called STU. So it will do what? Student STU equal to new student. It will do this. But wait, whenever we are creating this object, okay, we will let Spring know, hey, don't just create the object, also inject the dependency for us, right? So if you see this particular program, this particular class, this student class is also has some dependency. This student is not a good student, he's the best student, this is me, right? So I depend on matchit. This particular matchit reference, okay, for this also it need to create the object. So this for this you need to create object, and for this also Spring has to create the object, because this object we are going to pass it inside the setter method, right? So you can see here, student object we are creating over here, then we are creating the matchit object, right? So now we are going to configure the matchit object here. Okay, so now this matchit is a dependency, right? Okay, so now this matchit is what? Is a dependency, right? I told you, right? So think like so let's do this. Let's say string name I have. Okay, we understand about it previously, right? String, let's say int ID I have. Okay, how to inject the value for ID? I need to generate a setter method, right? So let me remove all these spaces here, and for this ID I want to create a setter method. So source, generate getter and setter. I need to click on ID, select setters, and okay. So right now I do have the setter method for ID, right? So how to configure this ID in a Spring config file? You remember last time I told you, right now this ID is a dependency of the student class, right? Because this ID is inside the student. So whenever we create a student object, we should write write the ID for that particular student, right? So in the beans.xml file, whenever we are creating this particular bean, we need to tell Spring that, hey Spring, there is some property that you need to set whenever you are creating the student class object, right? So what is the property? The property name is ID, okay? And then we are passing the value, right? For this ID, what should be the value? The value I need to pass, like the value is, let's say the roll number is, let's say 1001. You remember? Okay, so if you remember this, the next thing is also going to be very simple. So we are going to pass the name and the value, right? So now the next thing, what is the property name? The next property name is match it. But wait, here the ID is of what type? It is of int type, right? But here the match it is of what type? This is a class. This is a reference type. This is a class type. This is a type of match it. Match it is a class, right? So for this match it also we are going to do the same thing. Okay, for the match it, we have what? We have created a setter, right? If it is a setter, what we need to write? Property, right? So again we'll say, okay, so there is another property. So for this student class, whenever you're creating the student class object, inject the ID and inject another property name is match it. Let me copy this. Let me come over here and do a control V. All right. So here the property, okay. Now the value. But wait, for this property, so this ID is of what type? This ID is of int type. That's why we put the value. But this match it is what? This is not a primitive type, right? This is a reference type. This is a class type, right? So if this is a class type, right? So class means what? The class type, that means you need to pass a object for it, okay? And the object, how we are configuring? We are configuring by using bin, right? Object means bin. Think like this, right? Bin mean whatever the object your Spring container is managing. You remember that, right? So in the beans.xml file right now, inside, okay, so this is the property, okay? So in the property, I'll give a line break here. So inside this property and property tag, I need to define, hey Spring, so this property match it is just not a normal kind of value. This is an object value I need to pass, right? So object, how I need to configure? Using the bin. In the bin, what I need to give? ID and class, okay? Wait, but this bin is an inner bin, okay? So inside this student is the outer bin and this match it is the inner bin. Why? This match it object is inside the student, right? This match it is inside the student. So this is a bin we are creating and this is another bin which is there inside the student class, right? So inside the student class only, here inside the bin and bin. So this is my student bin. Inside the student bin, I am configuring another property called match it, and this match it is also a class, but this is a this class is present inside the student, right? This bin is present inside the student bin. So this is a inner bin, and for inner bin we don't give ID, right? That is useless, right? We'll be talking about it later. Let's not forget about that. So forget about ID. So like we are given ID, we have provided ID and class. This is like we are configuring bin. But here in the bin, we are not going to give any ID over here. We are going to just configure the class. Okay, this match it is of what class? So if I come over here, this match it of what class? This is a match it class, right? So if I go to this match it class, command click, or you can do control click. So I'll reach my match. This is my match it class. So I need to provide the fully qualified path of this match it class. So what I'll do a right click over here and copy qualified name, and I'll come over here and inside the class I'll put the match it class reference over here. I mean the path over here, and I'm done. Cool, you have done it. Okay, so what I did over here? Nothing. I just created a student object. Okay, this student object I have given a ID called stu. Using this stu, I'm going to track this particular object. So think like this is something like student stu equal to new student. Then I have done what? I have injected the value 1001 for the property ID, and for the property match it, I have injected a match it object. right? So Spring is internally going to create an object, match it equal to new match it, and it is going to use the setter to inject this particular object to this particular reference. Why it is going to use this particular setter method? It is going to use this setter method because here we are defining property, right? Inside property and property you are writing, right? You are writing property because you are telling Spring that, hey, use the setter method, find the setter method inside the student class and use that setter method to inject the object to this particular reference, match it, right? So is that clear? Obviously, I think. If not, let me know. If I'm boring, let me know, because I'm repeating it so many times just to make you understand, just to make sure that if any fresher is watching this, he should be also getting it, right? It's just not like, if I want to cover this, I can cover it within 5 minutes or 10 minutes, right? Just to write 2-3 lines of code, right? It's not that great, not that big. Okay, so this is a simple concept. If you didn't understand, then just repeat it and watch it again. And if you still don't understand, reach me out, I'll help you guys. Okay, so I think you got this point clear. So now the next thing is, okay, so right now I told you that Spring is going to create an object for student. It is going to inject the property for the ID field and the match it field, right? So let me make all this particular variable private because this is a good programming practice. Okay, all right, so right now how to make sure that all these values are got injected. Okay, to make sure all the values are got injected inside the client class, right now I need to do something. Okay, so these things just to make you understand, so I'll be removing it. So first thing, you need to tell me how to read this bins.xml file. How can I read this particular file? I told you, right? Application context. First I need to create my container object. So application context context equal to new, let me maximize it, new class path XML application context, and inside the new class path XML context I need to pass my bins.xml file. Okay, my configuration file, right? So what I'll do, so I need to pass my bins.xml file over here. Then I'll do sysout. Let's say I just want to log it out. Let's say bins.xml file loaded, right? Just to make sure that that file is get loaded, right? If I run this, is it loading? Yep, it's loaded. We have done it, right? You, me, together, we all have done it. It will never go wrong. Don't worry. So right now, when we use the application context, what will happen? When the container will be created, it is going to read your XML file. The container is going to read your XML file, and inside that XML file, whatever the object we have configured, that object is getting created. Sorry, inside your container, you have your student class object, right? So right now, if my student class object is there, right? So I can get my student class object, right? Context dot get bin. Okay, you have the bin created, you have the object created, my student class object. Give me that object, right? So student dot get me. Student dot get bin. Don't mind, it's a long day for me. So right now it's recording, right? Okay. So get bin, and what is my bin name? Okay, my bin name is what? My bin name is student class. I want my student object. So this is my student bin stu. So let me give stu over here, and I'll do student dot class, right? And this is going to give me what class object? Student class object, right? Because I don't want to explicitly downcast this, so that I do this particular format. Otherwise you have to downcast. I don't want to confuse you guys, right? Don't be confused. Spring is very simple, right? Student equal to, okay, now I got my student class object. Okay, so I got my fully constructed object, right? So here bin is going to give me this complete object to me, right? So inside this object, all these things is there. The ID is there, the match it is there, all the values are already got inserted to this particular object. That object is constructed, fully constructed. Spring is going to say, okay, take this object and call whatever you want. This object is already got constructed. You don't need to think about anything. You don't need to think about how to inject the value for your dependency. You need to create all these objects, whatever this student class is, like match it. You don't need to do all these things. I have already done the work for you. So you just need to do what? So you got your student class your object, right? You got your student object, right? So right now you just need to do what? Student, you want to call the match it method, right? So we have a cheating method, right? This cheating method actually displays, the match it, because in the cheating method we are calling the match it, and this match it method is actually printing something. Math cheating, CHEAT. Okay, math cheating started, right? Here it is printing, right? So let me come back here. Okay, so this method is going to call this method, and this method is actually going to print this. Simple, right? So right now if I come over here and if I do Control S and if I run this particular program, let's see, it is giving me null pointer exception or it is starting my math cheat. You can see the result. Math cheating started. Congratulations, you have injected the value for your match cheat reference using the setter method by taking help from Spring, because inside in your spring.bins.xml file only you have configured this particular object. Here only you are creating the object by using the Spring, and your Spring is actually doing a dependency injection for you guys by using this setter method. Isn't it cool? Super, right? So this is great. So right now we understood that dependency injection, how it is happening if we are using the setter method, right? Okay, so guys, right now we have the ID also over here. So right now I want to let's say I want to call this ID also. I want to see the value for this ID also, because in the bins.xml file I'm setting the value of the ID also over here, right? I want to see that this ID value is getting injected to this particular dependency or not, right? So to check that, what I can do another sysout over here inside the cheating method. Let's say match cheat, and let's say another sysout here, and here we say let's say the student who is doing the cheating, he's a smart guy. Okay, he's a smart student, so he don't care. Okay, you want to know who am I'm doing cheating, and I know I openly saying that my name is Avilash. Have you done this kind of thing in your college days? So hey, my ID is so we are going to concatenate this ID over here, ID, okay, plus take and do whatever you want to do, just threatening the teacher a little. Okay, so right now in the bins.xml file, in the client.java class, whenever I'm going to run this setting method, I'm damn sure that okay, if my values got injected, here I'm actually logging my value, here I'm actually printing my value, and that value should be printed over here, whatever the ID is there for the student, right? So here if I come here, if I run this particular program, okay, so I'm running a wrong file here. Oops, so let me delete it. Let me go to client.java again, let me do a Control S and let me run it. There you go, match setting started. Hey, my ID is 1001 and take and do whatever you want. Great, you have done with the dependency injection concept. You know how to do dependency injection right now, okay? How to inject the object type value over here by using the property. Simple, right? But right now, this way of doing it, this way of injecting property is not that great. This is just to get you started. There is a standard way of doing it. But before I go to the standard way of doing it, okay, you should be knowing why I'm doing that kind of thing. Okay, you should be knowing that Okay, this is the reason why Avilas is not actually happy with this particular approach. Why you want to standardize this particular approach, right? You should be knowing that, right? So before I go ahead and tell you, this is another concept, right? So this is already, I think, 30-40 minutes. Take a break, grab some popcorn, have some coffee. If you want to go out, chill out with your friends, do whatever you want, come back and get started with this video again, right? So do pause if you want, but if you're feeling okay to go ahead, let's go with me right now, because I'm going to take a long session today. I'm going to talk too much today because when I got you guys, I don't want to stop because I love you guys. So yeah, actually I really love you guys and I really mean it, because whenever I read those comments, right, uh, that really motivate me to do this kind of thing, and you guys are awesome. I do have a very less subscriber base, around 4,500 probably, but you guys are awesome. Seriously, I mean it. You guys are really awesome, whoever is watching this. Okay. Okay. So the next thing is, yeah, so I need to tell you that okay, what is the problem? Okay, what is the problem of doing this thing? Okay, so guys, what I am going to do right now, let's say this is a student, okay, and I have a friend. If I'm a friend, if I am bad, okay, then my friend is also bad, because friendship is just like that. If I'm bad, my friend should be bad, right? So let's say I do have another friend, okay, he's another student, okay, I don't want to call his name, I don't want to defame him, so let's say another student, right? Another student. I'll do hit finish, and this student is also bad, okay, he also want to do cheating. So right now I have two students, this student and this student. So let me drag it to here. Can I do it? Oh yeah, I can. Okay, so this student is a student one, this is another student. This student is also a bad student, okay, so he also depends on cheating. So private match it. So I'm going to create a match it object, match it, and let's say cheat, okay, and here I have created another cheat object, and by default the cheat is null. And again, let's say there is another method over here called, let's say, public void, let's say start cheating, and here inside this start cheating method I want to call the cheat dot math cheat, okay, in the math cheat class cheating method. All right, so here what I want to do, I'm doing the same thing, but by default this object is right now null, right? I want to inject this object, so I'll do what? Right click, generate source, generate getters and setters. I'll click on select. I don't want getters, I want only setters, because we are going to do setter injection. And there you go. I'll do command A to select everything. I do command shift F to resize my code, and that's it. So right now I have two students, this student, okay, and this student. This student is also doing the same thing. He's another student. He's also taking math cheat, okay, he's also doing math cheat. Okay, so right now for this student also we need to configure the bin, okay. We're going to use Spring in the bins.xml only, like this student. For the another student also we are going to configure the object just like this only. So I'm not going to copy and paste it. If I want I can copy and paste it, but I'm not going to do it. Don't see this. Think what I need to do. Again, I need to create the object for another student, right? So another student is the class name. So let's do a right click, copy qualified name, go to bins.xml, create a bean. Again, I need to create another bean. Let's say this bean ID is, this is another student, and his class name is what? com.selenium express or di.another student. So this is the class name that I did copied over from here, right? Copy the qualified name of this another student. Okay, so now here how many dependency it has? It has how many dependency? Only one dependency. What is the dependency? Cheat. Cheat is what? It is a reference type. So I need to do what? This is a property again, because I need to do the injection by using the setter injection, right? The name is, again, let's say the name is cheat. The dependency name is what? Cheat, right? Control C. I'll come over here, I'll do control V. Okay, and this property, okay, this is not a normal property, it is a bin, right? So I'll do bin, not Mr. Bin, and I'll do class. Okay, and this cheat belongs to his class. Let's go over here, another student. This cheat belongs to his class, math class. So let's do a command click over here. Let's go to this class. Let's do right click, and I'll do copy qualified name. I'll come over here to bins.xml file. Let's put that class in. Okay, there you go. We are done. We are done with creating this bin, right? So right now I'll do what? I'll go to my client.java class here. Again, I want to call that particular object, right? So whenever, again, the application context equal to new application context. Just a minute, I'll be telling you about it. Okay, whenever your container is getting created, your container is going to read the XML file, bins.xml file, and whatever the object we have configured over here, it is going to create those objects over there inside the container, and it is going to manage those objects, right? So right now container object got created, then this context has how many objects? 2 objects. That is what we have configured in the bins.xml file. First object is this stu. Second object is again what? Context.getBin. Okay, get bin. And what is the ID for that particular object? Another student, and here let me put the another student, the ID, and do what? Okay, so this another student, okay, this another student belongs to his class, another student class, right? So I'll do what? I'll come to client.java, I'll do another student dot class, right? Right now, there you go. Now this another student, right? I need to handle the return type over here. This particular method will return the another student object. No confusion, right? Okay, so it's simple, right? Context.getBin and get the bin for another student, okay, which is of another student.class type. So in here, Spring is also going to create the object for this another student, right? So another student belongs to his class, another student.java. Inside the another student, what we have? The cheat object, another object we have. This is the outer bin and this is the inner bin. So another class, you have this cheat. This cheat is another class, math cheat, right? This is a class, right? So this class is inside this another student. So this is inner bin, right? So this thing Spring will be created, and if that is good, then I can call another student dot start cheating, right? Inside the another student dot java, I do have start cheating method, right? So if I come to client.java and if I run this particular program, let's see what is happening. There you go. Okay, it is saying math cheating started, right? Again, it is calling that same particular method. This start cheating method we are calling, right? The start cheating method, it is here, and inside the start cheating method we are again calling what? We are calling this math cheat, right? The math cheating is started, and that is what I'm getting in my console. Is that clear? It's clear, right? Okay, so right now the point to prove over here, this student and the another student, this student, this class and this class, they both are actually accessing or using a common dependency. They're both having a common dependency. What is the common dependency between student.java and another student.java? The common dependency is the math cheat. It is also using math cheat. It is also using math cheat. Okay, so right now I'm going to do what? Whenever Spring is going to create object, how many times we are configuring this math cheat? Let's see in the bins.xml file. Okay, here we are configuring the math cheat inside the student class, and inside the another student class also we are again configuring the math cheat. So 2 times we are creating the object. Let's say I have around 100 students. All the 100 students are my friend. They are also bad. Okay, they also need cheat, and if we all are going to do cheating, okay, how many math cheat object will be created? 100, because we are 100 and all the 100 students will need different cheat. That's not good. That's consume a lot of memory. our pocket will be full. If our pocket will be full, our teacher is going to catch us, right? So we're not going to do that thing. We'll take one cheat, okay, and we'll circulate it, okay. So only one math cheat object will create. The main intention for using Spring is, to make our application lightweight. Lightweight means what? We shouldn't be creating unnecessary object, okay. Less object, the application performance will be good because it's consume less memory, everything will be good, okay. So we should be making use of Spring. Spring is helping us to create lightweight application, and lightweight application means we shouldn't be creating objects again and again, which we shouldn't have it, because here if you see how many objects we are creating two different objects. This is one object we are configuring here, this is one object we are configuring over here, but these both are same, right? This property name is matchit, is matchit class, this property name cheat whatever, but this is a matchit class. The matchit class I'm configuring here two times. That means Spring is going to create an object over here for two times for the matchit class. Let's prove it. Okay, so inside the matchit.java, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to write a constructor matchit, and this is my constructor, okay. So let's do sys out, and I'll do math, let's say matchit class constructor called, right? Great. So now here inside this particular bin we have matchit class, inside this particular bin we have matchit class. So if you are configuring the property inside the bin only, here, then for this also, this matchit also, it will call the constructor whenever it is creating this student object, and again whenever it is creating the object for this bin, this another student, it is again going to create the object of matchit. If it is going to create the object of matchit, again the constructor of matchit will be called, right? So how many times the constructor should be called? Two times, because two objects we are configuring over here, and inside both the object, inside both the bin, we are configuring our matchit class here, which is not a good approach, because I'm damn sure if I'm going to run this application right now, you can see how many times the matchit constructor get called. Two times, right? This is not good. Unnecessary, we are making our application heavyweight, right? We shouldn't be doing it, right? So instead of configuring our object like this, I'll remove this object from here. I'll remove this. Here only we are creating the object, right? This bin we are creating the object here. So I'm going to remove this, and also here also I'm going to remove this property. Here I'm putting the value for this property, right? I'm going to remove this. Okay, right now this is the name, but how we will give the value? We have already removed that object, right? But how right now you are going to give that value? Okay, so I'm going to do what? Here, instead of creating that object, or instead of configuring that matchit object inside this property and property, or inside this property and property of this class or this class, I'll do what? I'll go above it and I'll create another bin explicitly over here, and here I'm going to give it an ID. Let's say the ID is matchit, okay. And you know what, I'm going to create that particular object, so I need the matchit class. So I can go over here, copy qualified name, I can come over here to bins.xml file, I'll do Control V. So this object, this matchit object I have created over here, okay. So now what I do, inside this student, this is a student, right? This student need the matchit. I'll do what? Inside the property, I'll do what? Okay, this is your name and the object you want, right? You want the matchit object. So I do have a matchit object available here. What is the ID of that object? Matchit, right? So let me give the ID something else so that you will not be confused. Let's say matchit demo value, so matchit object value, right? Something like this. Okay, so this is my matchit object here I have created, and so this student is actually asking for a matchit, okay, because this is the student and inside the student it has a property called match it, right? The student has a property called match it, and this particular match it we have configured over here, right? So I'm going to do what? I'm going to copy this ID and I'm going to say this property, this is the name and the reference is this, okay? And I don't need to explicitly end the property over here, I can end it over here in one line, okay? If I'll end it over here, this doesn't require. Great, I'm done. So see over here what I did. Property, okay, what is the property name inside the student class? I do have a property called ID, the value I have given 1001. Inside the student class, I do have an ID property, I do have a match it property, okay? So here I have configured the match it property again, and what is the value for this match it? Okay, refer to match it object value. Where is match it object value? Here it is match it object value. What is the value of match it object value? The value will be the object of match it class, right? So here what we are doing, we are actually for this match it we are giving the object for match it object value. And again here in this bin it is again asking for, there is another property called chit. So another student, there is another class called another student. In this another student class again it is asking for the chit, right? This chit is of what type? Match it type, okay? No problem. Okay, so inside the bins.xml file I do have a property called chit. For another student I do have a property called chit, and for this chit it is expecting a value for match it, okay? So again I have already created an object for this match it over here, right? So I'm going to take this ID, I'll do Control C, okay, and here I'm going to use ref, okay? Can you please reference to this particular ID, and this ID got the value of match it object. So let me remove this property because I have explicitly ended over here by giving a slash, so I don't need to write that. Okay, that's great. So this chit got the value called match it value. This match it got this value called match it object value. So this match it object value is what? This is the ID. This means this particular class object, right? So let's say I have 100 students right now, and if they need a match it object, I'll just push this ID. I'll just write ref equal to this ID, just like this. Ref equal to this ID and ref equal to this ID. Simple. And if I'm going to run it right now, okay, so right now if I go to come to client.java and if I need to run it, how many times that constructor will be called? How many times I'm creating the object over here? I'm creating the object over here only one time, okay? And that object I'm using everywhere for every student, right? So I do have only one chit, and that chit is getting used by all the students. So only one object is getting created, and obviously my class will be lightweight only, my application will be lightweight only, right? So if I do go to client.java, if I run this, there you go. How many times the constructor get called? Match it class constructor get called for only one time, right? Because here only Spring is going to create the object, and that object whenever we need it, it is going to push that particular object because we are using ref and we are giving the ID name over here for this, right? So this ID value will be get injected, right? This ID will be belongs to match it class, a match it object will be created, and Spring is going to give that object whenever you need it, whenever you are going to use the ref tag here, right? So this is the standard way of doing it. Don't worry, this is very simple. Practice it for one time, right? So here we have done the dependency injection using Spring. We learned that how to inject the value of a reference type or value of an object type by using Spring framework. Very simple, isn't it?